everyone, it's Matt, and today I'm going to be reading to you the tweets of a Twitter account called Magic Realism Bot. Magic Realism Bot is a Twitter bot that was created by a couple of people to randomly generate short stories or snippets of literature in the magic realism genre, which is a little difficult to describe if you're not familiar with it. I certainly wasn't before I came across this account, but it is apparently a genre of art or literature, etc., that it kind of acts like fiction, but with the twist that magic is kind of commonplace. Magical and odd things are accepted as normal and commonplace in reality. It's a little difficult to describe, but ultimately I thought that the tweets that this bot generates might make for some good reading material to help you sleep too. So I got some permission from the creators of the bot, and today I'm going to be reading some of the tweets. So I do hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. A blueberry as beautiful as the Milky Way grows in a Trojan garden. A pope writes a novel about it. By using this tiny clockwork device, you can reach another dimension. It is filled with triangles and cupcakes. There is a firefly in Africa that is 30 times prettier than you. Remember, these are all randomly generated, so I wouldn't take any of them personally. A Bavarian congressman has a dictionary instead of a penis. A high school teacher meets a polar bear that is covered in literary genius instead of fur. A medieval diary describes a game in which the aim is to become a polar bear. A cold-hearted duke passes a law against the letter D. During a solar eclipse, a poem is written in the sky in rainbows. It reads, "You need to paint a picture of mussel shells." A restaurateur makes a smoothie out of papayas, pineapples, and the apocalypse. A secretary switches bodies with an intellectual. A Somali departmental committee holds a meeting about the Middle Ages that continues for 2 billion years. A software developer recites the Lord's Prayer. In that time, he lives a whole other life as a 10th century Prussian princess. A South African president photographs the Watergate scandal. A secretive physician sees a sandalwood tree made of sexual frustration. A politician searches for a shard of glass which allows her to turn into a motel. A medieval fisherman appears in an outlet mall in Milwaukee. He is breathing heavily. An army major is sailing a steamship to World War II. A woman discovers that society is under the control of an enormous cobra. A sorcerer invents a new theory of art based on the movement of ballet dancers. A teenage poet receives a strange Christmas gift, a mechanical black hole. A hippopotamus can move swamps with its mind. A judge in Toronto is swallowing Donald Duck. A king owns a which depicts every birth since the dawn of time. A midwife starts a company which sells optimism. A movie producer slowly turns into a coral reef. She doesn't really mind. Kangaroo tails and bow ties. That is all. An ancient order of professors invent a parallel universe where everything is wigs. A mechanical labyrinth covers the whole of Athens. An undertaker is in the center. A crocodile lays an egg. A leaf is inside it. A wardrobe flies past you. Nearby, a congresswoman is thinking about a lily. An evening gown causes anyone who wears it to think they are a caterpillar. In Siberia, there is a palace which is wearing a t-shirt. In Manhattan, there is a set of porcelain figurines which is kissing a pharmacist. A hospital with the mind of a beauty therapist is roaming the streets of a small town in South Dakota. It carries a tampon in its hand. A teenager makes love to a castle inside a stained glass planet. A sorceress aims to write a poem about every hot dog in Japan. There is a willow tree in Colorado that is infinitely beautiful. An archaeologist is falling in love with the internet. An emperor dreams of a persimmon that can destroy lightning bolts and sets out to find it. A time-traveling countess from ancient Egypt materializes in front of you. She says, "I am here to give you a wardrobe." A duke owns a small metal sphere that allows him to see everything in the world at the same time. A Tamil governess discovers that her baby is a kaleidoscope. A social media manager sleeps in an ivory wheat field. A giant clam made of Krispy Kreme donuts is born in Hollywood. A doctor sees a cloud in the shape of a dream. There is a 16th century Californian prophecy that you will get drunk with a tombstone. A lonely sociologist falls in love with Steve Wozniak. A scholar finds a 13th century book containing instructions for building a yurt out of toilets. A Maharaja turns into every PhD thesis in Tasmania. An irritable bureaucrat discovers a tiny crystal which lets her see every gondola in Calcutta. A duchess marries the sun. They have one child, a daughter who is made of gardens. A penniless vice president decrees that everyone must be made of arrogance. An exotic dancer is being pursued by a lioness. A forest suddenly falls from the sky in Iceland. An Austrian warship sails on an ocean of optical illusions. A hospital in Portland is made of laughter. A hermit falls into a pool filled with true love. An architect jumps in to save him. A blonde Sumerian astrologer finds a pair of spectacles. that allow him to destroy irony. A Vietnamese office manager hears of a city located inside a swamp and devotes her life to finding it. You are standing in a magical cave. You can hear the faint sound of a French horn. A record producer is playing basketball. Suddenly, the basketball turns into a jewel, and the hoop turns into a pigeon. Evolutionary biology is feeling anxious today. There is a secret department in Tesla Motors that is developing a tiny machine made of paper that can destroy starlight. A word whispers to a girl, "I wish I was a pine forest." In Utah, there is a rabbit's foot with an ancient software developer trapped inside it. There is a Punjabi reality TV show in which contestants must count all the compasses in Rome. The sun is eating a chocolate chip cookie in a lighthouse. Solve this mystery. A nun is found murdered in a house of mirrors. Beside her is a mermaid and an eyeball. A Spartan princess believes it is her destiny to strangle nudity. An undertaker proposes marriage to philosophy. A candy apple is in a psychiatric hospital in Indonesia. A school teacher proposes marriage to a glass cherry tree. In Switzerland is an alphabet in which every letter is a mansion. A beautiful woman with crimson eyes appears and hands you a hobbit. There is a volcano in Chicago. It spews out burritos. By climbing to the top of a merry-go-round, you can reach a parallel universe. It is like Milwaukee, except everything is made of silver. A senator discovers that women whose name begins with the letter R do not exist, and is secretly pleased. A carpenter invents a better version of true love, whispering. A beautiful man with blue eyes is dancing in an art gallery. He is thinking about winter. A bat is doing nothing at all behind him. A duchess hears of a 5-star hotel filled with giant squids and dispatches her bodyguards to kill them. A Maltese queen makes a speech about question marks that goes on for 6,000 years. A tired angel passes a law against broomsticks. A veterinarian in Oregon spends her lunch break destroying castles. A pope sentences a supernova to death. There is a supermarket in Glasgow. Instead of groceries, it sells sundaes. A queen owns a painting which depicts every conversation by an economist. A coven of children meet once a year inside a ruined ziggurat to decide the fate of the world's firstborn sons. A congressman causes anyone who sees him to turn into a dictionary. In the Forbidden City, plums start raining from the sky. A vampire is responsible. A lonely anesthetist writes a poem that is made out of Geiger counters. A scholar discovers a letter by Aristotle on the subject of paradoxes. A Hungarian game show host is remembering cockroaches. 1,000 book collectors plan to create a universe where everything is silver bullets. A dinghy floats on a river filled with jello. In Ohio, a clown is building an exact copy of the city of Cardiff out of icicles. A breast rises out of the Pacific Ocean. A violinist says, "That's a bad omen." An empress wants to imprison every umbrella in Australia. An accountant suddenly appears in a gondola in 18th century Venice. Nobody pays much attention. A Texan political action committee seeks donations from polyamorous wizards. A Bolivian pirate is writing a love letter to imagination. In Baghdad, there is a forest which used to be a Mongolian queen. A billionaire watches A Room with a View. In that time, she lives another life as a Basque archduke. You suddenly realize that you're an aeroplane. By thinking of a fireplace, an Italian sheik is able to destroy Halley's Comet. A girl wakes up one day and is turned into a banjo. Her lover is secretly pleased. There is a tax code in Kyoto that is infinitely long. A meerkat is weeping inside a parallel universe. A president sees a puddle of white wine in the shape of a Big Mac. A YouTube star is having a telephone conversation at the bottom of the Red Sea. A university student is praying in a glass pine forest. An Ethiopian submarine is sailing on a sea of social anxiety. An ancient book describes a crocodile with unicorns instead of teeth. I would like to meet this crocodile. You are transported to an underwater city. Ahead of you is a road paved with mushrooms. A serene necromancer falls into a sea filled with procrastination. Nobody notices. A clerk buys a spell from a witch. It makes him forget every manuscript he has read. 9 hairstylists are setting out on a long journey. Their aim is to find their long-lost brother. An Agatha Christie mystery in which the killer is revealed to be a cat's tail. A neurosurgeon is visiting an art gallery. Suddenly, all the paintings turn into volcanoes. During the winter solstice, a sentence appears above a Belgian cemetery. It reads, "Beware of parachutes." Dieting is in a polyamorous relationship with jazz music and self-awareness. There is a monster in Constantinople with the head of a scorpion and the body of a wizard. It feels cynical. A koala and a prince are falling in love. Their parents do not approve. A eunuch gets married to the moon inside a terracotta ocean. A cocktail waitress in Montreal is famous for selling authoritarianism. The International Space Station is eating oranges in a coliseum. A priest steals writer's block and hides it inside a clockwork cathedral. A news that can destroy bloodlust grows in a Mesopotamian garden. A man searches for it. A Venezuelan almanac describes a woolly mammoth that turns you into a maple tree. Last night I dreamt about hexagons, belts, and a peppermint. A broken heart is chosen to be the next CEO of Goldman Sachs. A grandmother has trapped an ancient Roman court jester inside a chestnut tree. A screenwriter discovers that the economy is being masterminded by a planet. A Burmese shaman remembers a haunted piglet. In Belfast is a high school carved out of a beehive. In San Francisco, there's a dictionary that is made of philosophers. The body of a poet is found in a lighthouse. Next to it is a bearskin rug and a broken gramophone. Can you explain what happened? A giant sequoia appears above London. It is controlled by a clown. A narcissistic king introduces a law that everyone must be drunk. A Spanish field marshal owns a pair of binoculars which let him see every argument since the birth of Christ. A 15th century poem describes a world filled with chimpanzees. During a lunar eclipse, all humans on Earth are replaced by knives. A giraffe is dancing all night with childhood. A silent video game designer falls in love with starlight. 18 children play a game in which the aim is to become an ice cube. A Mexican dental hygienist spends his life rewriting Alice in Wonderland. There is a 12th century Caribbean prophecy that you will be destroyed by a supermarket. Well, I certainly hope not. A sorcerer asks you to solve a riddle. Why did the nihilistic bear walk into the emergency room? A witch is hiding in a liquor store. She is thinking about sleeping in. There is a lizard standing right behind her. A Madagascan prime minister hatches a plan to murder postmodernism. A supermodel searches for a map which shows the location of every tropical island in Ohio. A committee of metaphysicians come together to worship 3 wishes. A congressman switches bodies with a sycamore tree. Your mother tells you that you are made of emerald. A cashew nut causes anyone who sees it to turn into an orchid. A trumpet crawls out of a salamander's mouth. Then an old lady appears and says, "That trumpet is my daughter." A factory in the Bay Area produces vast quantities of skulls. An archivist finds a long-lost book containing instructions for building a temple out of olives. An opera house made of Kate Bush appears in San Diego. A time-traveling criminal from the Crimean War appears before you. He hands you a gold bar and says, "Be kind to dingoes." A schoolmaster finds out that 9 monks are controlling his destiny. A rabbi falls into a lake filled with ice cream. By entering a church in Seattle, you can reach another world. It is ruled by an elephant. A sex worker is snoring inside a planet. A Polish woman discovers that her son is a hazel tree. A math teacher whistles a song. In that time, she lives for 16 years as a tiger. A sailor is writing a list of people she plans to kill. A boy, a geisha, and an anthropologist. PepsiCo has found a new way to create listlessness. A shark holds up a jewelry store and steals 16 sapphires, an opal, and a magic piece of rose quartz. 18 fairies are going on a quest. Their aim is to do battle with a cathedral. A duke declares war on the stock exchange. A seahorse is eating a candle. A 40-year-old homeless person discovers a rose bush made of Mozart. In a marble forest, there is a glass library. A kangaroo made of gummy bears is born in New York. A realtor invents a better version of stupidity. Kissing owls. A Ukrainian essay describes a ruby that wishes to be a prince. An Assyrian opera singer listens to a jazz record that plays the sounds of emotion. A nun realizes that she is a tomato. Nobody notices. A Sudanese solicitor sees a cloud in the shape of a playing card. In Las Vegas, tomatoes start raining from the sky. A demon is responsible. A baron prepares a turducken made of a swan inside an octopus inside a spider. A Moroccan butler searches for a telescope that lets him sense the presence of compassion. Disappointment is playing a game of tic-tac-toe. And last but not least, a Dutch countess tells the story of a leopard with prime numbers instead of spots. So I do hope that you enjoyed that. And if you did, I would encourage you to check out the Twitter of Magic Realism Bot. I'll put a link in the description. And again, I'd like to thank the creators of it for giving me permission to make this video. And I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you have a good night's sleep, and I will see you next time.